It's fun.
What's up, Buckeye Nation? You're tuned in to the Buckeye Cast, coming at you loud and proud, bringing strong opinions and salty humor to Ohio State football. These fellas were born and bred in the Buckeye State, and their brand of banter is guaranteed to entertain and excite you. But if you're not a Buckeye, don't bother. Visit us at thebuckeyecast.com and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at the Buckeye Cast to stay up to date on all things Ohio State football. And be sure to subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Now here's your host, Joe Warwick.
What's up, Buckeye Nation? Here we are again. Oh, it feels so good to be back in the holidays, enjoying the holidays. We got a big bowl game coming up. Nice to be a part of the college football playoffs once again. We were sorely missed last season, to be sure. Happy holidays to all of you, Buckeye Nation. We are getting primed and hyped for this Fiesta Bowl. This is your pre-Fiesta Bowl show. I got Sean up in Detroit with me tonight, and hopefully Jeff will join us later. What's up, Sean?
What's going on? I'm actually coming at you today from the friendly confines of Tiffin, Ohio.
Oh.
Holla.
Nice.
So, yeah, doing this from the Buckeye State, I feel comfortable, very comfortable.
That feels better. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, listeners, please find us on your favorite podcast app or your favorite podcast website. You can also find us at thebuckeyecast.com. The shows are all up there. We're on YouTube, everything, all the social media platforms. And if you want to subscribe to our email list, we send out a weekly email newsletter, quick and short, give you a little info on the upcoming show, and you can quickly subscribe from that. And also, we have affiliates still. They did not leave us yet, so that's a bonus. We have footlocker.com. Perhaps you've heard of it. They're in every mall in America. Visit our affiliates page and also see the show notes today. We'll have links to our affiliates. So let's jump into this. Like I said, we're talking beat Clemson right now. Is this payback for 2013? Or is this a different type of mindset going into this game?
I mean, I think personally it's completely different. We've had conversations. I think that 2013 game, players always play hard, but as a Buckeye fan, I wasn't that interested in it, to be honest with you. We just gave up a chance to play in the national championship game, and I wasn't that excited about it. Okay. So I don't know if the players aren't as excited. They probably are, and I know the coaches get their extra bonuses and money and all that, but I wasn't that into it like I am this year because there's a lot on the line. It's win or go home, and I think we can get this done. So
okay.
To me, this is a lot more intense situation.
I agree 100%. That 2013 team did not even want to be there. This was a letdown game, and we played like it, honestly. Noah Spence was suspended, if you remember that. Supposedly half the team had food poisoning during the week of prep for the game.
Oh, I think I remember that.
Yeah. Braxton's shoulder injury early on in the game was obviously a big key. And then the secondary decided that they would let Sammy Watkins steal the show and just run wild. And
what do you have, like 20 receptions for 250 yards? Something sick.
Yeah, it was uncalled for and unprecedented. And then we were still in the game. This was a close game. We only lost like 5 or 6 points.
Yeah.
Philly Brown muffed a punt deep in our own territory to really seal the deal. Anyway, let's move past that, as I clearly have. And let's talk about some breakdowns. We want to get into position battles and things like that. And I want to get your take on the QB comparison. These guys are very similar. They're both tough. They're winners, and they'll put a team on their backs. So
no doubt.
what do you take away in this kind of matchup? Do they equal each other out, or does one stand above the other for you?
I mean, in terms of raw talent, I mean, I would actually probably go with Watson. The guy's a freak. I mean, I've watched him. I haven't watched him, that much, but some of the times I did watch him, and mostly last year and even the year before that, I thought, wow, this is, maybe the best football player in college football. The guy's, a bona fide stud. He can do it all. He's tough to rattle. He can run. He can throw. He's the total package. He's got good size to him. So the guy's a stud. But JT, again, in Meyer's offense with all this time, JT had a very un-JT year as far as throwing the ball and his accuracy. But like I was just arguing with someone yesterday, actually up here, I'll throw a shout out to Who's Nuts, little Ohio State store in Tiffin, Ohio. I bought some swag from today. But I was, talking to that guy. We played against Michigan. I just watched that Michigan replay yesterday, by the way, and that was a windy game. The ball was blowing off the tee in that game. Against Michigan State, it was windy. Against Penn State, it was coming down sideways. So playing in the Midwest in November is tough, and it's hard. JT's a Texas boy. We're not going to have to play in that anymore. Now we're going down to Glendale, and it's going to be nice. And JT seems to throw the ball just fine when it's nice. So I think if Clemson goes into this game thinking JT's going to be a bum like he kind of looked for the past 3 or 4 games, outside of the drubbings we gave to Maryland and Nebraska, they're going to be in for a lesson. But so I like our quarterback. I like theirs. I mean, ultimately, I think it's a push. I think he has more talent, but Barrett's just a dog, man. I mean, he knows how to run Meyer's offense. You can't rattle that kid, and I like him.
Yeah. It's been interesting this season to continue the comparison. Watson seemed to want to throw much more this year compared to last year, and he almost put up 4,000 yards of passing, which is insane in 12 games, or 13 with their championship game. So the QB comparison numbers are kind of skewed towards Watson, but he didn't run as much as JT, and obviously JT had more important rushing opportunities, where he was the get a first down guy on 3rd or 4th and short,
and he plays in the South in the ACC, which is
right.
Garbage, and everyone knows it.
Yeah, obviously, Ohio State's had the much tougher schedule. That's not even debatable at this point. I think in this game, you have to assume Watson's going to run the ball more because of the man advantage you gain, in the QB run game. You think that they're going to kind of tweak the way Deshaun works, or is he going to continue to throw the ball to these weapons on the outside?
I mean, you mentioned that he threw for all these yards, and maybe part of it is, hey, to get in the league, you need to throw the ball. So maybe that was the plan, to throw the ball more to get this kid's draft status a little bit better.
Yeah, I can see that.
In this game, we're throwing all that out the window. They're going to throw out everything they can to get this win. So if he has to run it 20 times, then that's what he'll do.
Watson.
And he can.
Watson or JT, who are you talking about?
Both.
Okay, yeah. They may both run from 20 times, yeah. I'll take JT's rushing stats. He gets a little bit more yardage after contact than Watson, so I think that says something about toughness. And he's got about 300 plus more rushing yardage, so I think that's indicative of how JT works. And I'm, Herb's offense. When all else fails, we're going JT left and right.
Well, and the one thing you look at with Watson is, Watson is prone to throw picks, and JT protects the ball a lot better than Watson, I feel. So that to me is going to be a very key statistic in this game. Are going to be the turnovers, and if Watson throws no picks the whole game and Clemson secures the ball, it's gonna be tough to beat them. We're going to need to force some turnovers in this, and I think Watson will. I think he's going to throw a couple picks in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I could easily see a couple. Even with the 15 INTs that he's thrown this year, he still has a 67% completion percentage. So the dude is still completing passes, where JT, though he only has the 5 picks, is only completing at 62%. So I guess my concern from the QB perspective is, did the receivers get better over this bowl practice session this month? They didn't get faster. That's my question mark. I guess it kind of leads me into the receivers and how are they going to help JT, because it's not all on him. And we'll get into the O-line, which is, of course, the third component, to a successful passing game. So on the receiver side, that Mike Williams guy for Clemson is a beast. The dude went for almost 1,200 and 10 TDs. I think he missed a couple games too on top of that, which is solid to say the least. But
so what's the plan on him? Are we gonna try and just gonna, wherever he lines up, that's who's on him? Or are we gonna try and move Lattimore to him? Or have we heard anything on what they're gonna do with that?
I'm not. I haven't heard anything as far as changing the defense. I think it depends on where he lines up. We have to, if we're not playing man up, as far as following a guy around by his jersey number. We're playing man press at the line, but whoever lines up in your spot is who you're on. So hopefully they don't get him lined up against a nickel corner where we run into problems with Arnett, or somebody like that he could easily dominate. And
right.
And we need to adjust coverage. So I hope that's not the case, but they're gonna move him around and find holes for him. So
and they got a couple other guys that are pretty good at that wide receiver position. I don't think they're any better than what our guys were. I think they play a lot easier schedule and a lot better weather, and more of a passing offense than the power run game that Ohio State has. So the numbers are going to be there. They're just that's what they're built to do. They're a good group. I mean, it's probably, top to bottom, it's probably the strongest receiving group in the country, frankly.
Yep.
We'll see. I think it's, strength against strength. I think they're going to go up against the best secondary in the country as well. So
yeah, I don't think they've seen two corners that are NFL first rounders this season, and I'd be hard pressed to even think about one first rounder they've faced this year, except maybe a corner at Va Tech. So we'll see about that, and if whoever lines up on him, whether it's Marshawn or Conley, I think they're going to get the better of him for the most part.
Well, it all, and then it all goes back to how much time. I mean, you can't cover guys forever, so there needs to be some push up front, and I think some well-timed blitzes, and people are going to have to man up. Play aggressive. I'm willing to give up a big play here and there if you're going aggressive, but that might be a little hitch route over the middle or something. That they bust off for 25 yards because, like you said, Arnett gets smoked out of the flanker spot or something like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. All in all, I like our secondary against these wide receivers, but Deshaun's going to have to be on his game, and just like JT, I mean, same thing. They're going to have to be pinpoint passing. Obviously, the weather's not an effect on them, so they're both going to have to be on point if they want to be successful. Jumping back to the running game, Weber versus Gallman, on paper looks to be an even matchup, but I want to throw some numbers at you real quick.
All right.
I went a little deep into the advanced stats on what is that? CFBFilmroom.com. They got some really good stuff, and I went and looked at the season stats for Ohio State versus Clemson, and Weber has a better yards after contact average. Weber's getting 2.3 more yards after initial contact versus Gallman that's getting 1.7. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but I think in a game where you're getting 20 plus carries, that is going to pay dividends. It's kind of those hidden yards or hidden, half yards you don't see.
Well, it's a game of inches, man. You're talking about a half yard more average.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's the first down instead of fourth and a put.
As said by Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday.
Yes, sir.
In front of your face. And another point I wanted to make about the running game. Clemson has a few guys with some seriously high missed tackle numbers. These guys, and the main one is his middle linebacker. I almost call this guy a weak spot on their defense. His name's Kendall Joseph. He's number 34. This guy has 12 missed tackles on the season. That's high for a middle linebacker. Raekwon's is like 5 or 6 on the season. And then we get into the safeties. Safeties should be your most reliable tacklers, right? Typically. Yeah, they're the worst for Clemson, dude. Their free safety has 13 missed tackles on the season, and that loudmouth Jadar Johnson has 9. So
what do Webb and Hooker have?
I will get back to you on that number real quick, but they aren't even close. Trust me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that bodes well. I mean, that's great because what Weber brings to the table is vision and shiftiness and quickness. He doesn't have the breakaway speed, but who cares? Get me 8-9 runs and make a middle linebacker or a safety miss you, and take it in chunks, man.
Okay. Yeah. To compare, I got your numbers right here. So Raekwon, middle linebacker. So let's compare apples to apples. 5 missed tackles on the season. Okay.
All right.
Versus what I say, 12 for theirs.
Yeah.
So that's substantial, right?
Yeah.
Then Malik Hooker is the worst on the Buckeye defense at 13. So he's in line with their safety. All right. Then you go to, we don't have anybody above 8. And everybody's like 6, 5, 3. So this is why I highlight this area, because they got 3 guys almost in double digits, and these are key guys right up the middle. You got to be strong up the middle, right? As you talk about defense, you got to be strong up the middle. D line, obviously they're strong there. That's not a question. But middle linebacker has to be able to clean up, and then your 2 safeties cannot. They're the last line of defense. And they're missing fucking tackles.
Everyone keeps telling me how strong they are. Are they that? I know they're great against the pass. They got a hell of a pass rush, but that usually means they're pretty fast. But if you're that weak at tackling up the middle with your safeties and your linebacker, I mean, are their tackles like big boys? I mean, how are they going to slow down Ohio State's run game?
Right. That's what I'm saying is you make it to that second level, these are big gainers, dude. And almost home runs. Because these guys are taking horrible angles or whatever. So this is a thing I globbed onto today and thought it was semi-important, and a place we can attack them, So I'm thinking run game up the middle, as usual.
Exactly. Give me more of that.
Something different, we're going to switch it up.
Run up the middle for 10, Alex?
Yep. So, it'll be interesting to see if we test the edges when looking at these numbers. And then my other big question is on the offensive side of the ball is will Curtis Samuel get the ball enough to make a difference, And can someone on Clemson's defense match up with him? And who is that someone? Because I don't know. I'm not sure who can. If you send him out.
I don't know. I think I haven't seen it. I haven't watched Clemson enough to know, but I don't know who in the country matches up well with Curtis Samuel. But Clemson, I just don't know if they got the guys. And as far as going out wide, I hope we do stretch the field a bit. I mean, I always feel that gets some of them linebackers and those linemen a little wore down. Keep running up the gut. They ain't got to move that far. It's disheartening for them, but
right.
Wear them down. And I think we should be able to control the ball and kind of, not panic and steadily move on this. I think Clemson's D is a liability. I think they get a lot of these sacks because Clemson's up, because they got a good offense. They get up on these teams, and now teams are throwing the ball all over, trying to come back on them, sitting back there in that weak-ass conference, and Clemson's going off.
Exactly.
And teeing off on these guys. So,
yeah.
I think we can at least establish a running game that they haven't seen all year, and keep them back on their heels. They ain't going to be able to pin their ears back too much unless it's 3rd and long on us. So, kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, I dove way deep into some stats, and so don't hate me for my nerding out right now.
Look at the big brain on Joe.
Yeah. I just researched stuff. That's all. I didn't have a job, so I had stuff to do.
Man, you read things now? You're my friend.
Right. I fucked it all up. But I wanted to talk about linebackers in coverage quickly, because this relates to Curtis Samuel and could relate to Weber, and depending on how the receivers line up and tight ends and stuff, Marcus Ball could play heavily into this. The Clemson linebackers in pass coverage have an over 50% completion percentage against them. Okay? So think about that. So their linebackers are not covering dudes well. Okay? Compare that to the Buckeye linebackers. They're at 40%. Okay?
Okay.
So that tells you something right there. The Buckeye linebackers aren't the best in the country, but they're good, right? They do allow some completions, but that great divide there, I think, is a big deal when we're sending guys out into pass plays. I think that opens some windows, and it tells you something. If Samuel is going to, go out on some short hitch routes, swing passes, same for Weber. If he goes out on some swing passes into the flat, maybe those linebackers aren't quite going to be there, and maybe even, I know we've never seen this before, but maybe a screen pass might be a good call. I haven't seen one since the Tressel era, but it might be something to explore. Just my thoughts. I hope they're considering it.
Against that pass rush, I'd like to see, something to slow them down a little bit, because they're going to come.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that.
Yep. They got the aggressiveness, and like we've seen so many teams use against us is our D-line aggressiveness. They try to use draws, screen passes, those types of things to, or misdirection even, to use our speed against us. So, just my thoughts.
Well, but one thing I'll disagree with you on is us not having, the best linebackers in the country. I think 2 of our linebackers are going to be nice first-round draft picks in Raekwon this year and Baker probably after next year. I don't know about what's his name over there, but he's having a great year. So, I mean, I like our linebackers. I have no problem with them. I like the whole team.
I will say those linebackers from Cleveland, just players from Cleveland in general, they come with an edge and a toughness that you don't see a lot of times. So, and Worley illustrates that, definitely. So we need to shuffle on down to the O-line versus the Clemson D-line, as we just talked about. The
one thing that scares the shit out of me.
That's all. Just one thing. So one thing that consists of 5 guys, my big question mark is in the bowl prep, has Isaiah Prince corrected his issues. Same for Michael Jordan, but Isaiah Prince more so. He's been the major weak link, you know.
Well, I rewatched that Ohio State-Michigan game yesterday, and it was hard to watch Isaiah on some of that. You know, I was specifically watching him on a lot of these plays where I think it's the first time I really dialed in and rewatched it good and focused. I mean, he was getting just fucking worked. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Same edge every time.
But the one thing I did like was Meyer had come out and made a comment, and you don't know if it's Meyer's, you know, psychology class or whatever the fuck he's trying to get in these, but he said he's never seen a kid, you know, work as hard as Isaiah Prince has, like the last couple weeks. Now, that was about a week or so ago that I heard that. So I don't know if he's trying to just give that kid some confidence, or if this kid's really like, man, I don't want to look like that again. That was shit.
Yep.
So, you know, I think we were all saying after that game, we wanted his ass to be pulled. I don't think I've ever said that in my life, like pulling no lineman, but Taco Boy was killing him.
No shit, that fucking guy. It could have been anybody out there the way it looked, you know. How many guys came off that same edge and had success? That was brutal. So, you know, does Herb have a game plan, like a plan B in place if Isaiah's getting killed again? You know, do they bring in Brandon Bowen as an extra like blocking tight end on that side, or do they just leave somebody in all, you know, the entire game?
Was Pridgeon going to be ready for the bowl game?
No, he's not. He's healthy-ish, but not healthy enough to play. So it's unfortunate. That would have been helpful. But still, like you said just now, pulling an old lineman in the middle of the game is unheard of, really. You know, he'd have to be getting killed on every play. So,
well, you know what? I think the kid's got the skill set to do it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's mental or something with that kid, and if he really got after it, you know, now's your time. I'm sure he took a lot of flack on some boards on his Twitter or whatever they do to get at these kids nowadays, and you know that should have get at you. And doesn't kill you makes you better.
Leave the Twitter out of it. Imagine what the coaches were fucking saying, man. Holy shit!
Right?
Yeah, Ed Warner's not a fucking cupcake, so I'm sure they heard plenty of it, and they saw it in film study, and he probably got killed more so, and it probably hurts more when you're sitting next to your teammates in a film room and your coach is laying into you. So,
well, I mean, it's just going to have to be. Of course, they'll blitz anyway, and won't even let Weber help. But you know, on for sure passing downs, the third and longs, you're obviously going to have to leave Weber back there to help, whether they're blitzing or not, to get that. And you know, at least it's the right tackle where Barrett sees it coming usually, and you know, hopefully there's a place for him to go.
Yeah. If they're coming up the gut over Michael Jordan, then we're in big trouble, because then you got zero time to throw the ball. At least coming off the edge, you got 2 seconds maybe. So, but our strength is running the ball as always, and the run blocking has been great all year, but the pass blocking has just been so terrible. So, do we fall into a trap where we're like first half of the Michigan game? It was run every play almost, you know, run right, run left, and we end up with what, 7 points at the half. So I think play calling is part of it. They're going to have to consider throwing on first down like we did against Michigan in the second half. They opened it up and decided even if it wasn't successful, they're still going to throw the ball on first down just to keep the defense honest, you know?
Well, again, it all goes back to me is get Curtis Samuel his touches. Look at the end of that Ohio State game in overtime.
Right.
Curtis Samuel took it over. I mean, that one crazy play to get us to the 4th and 1.
Yep.
Touchdown. A couple other plays in there. Curtis Samuel he needs the touches. And I don't know Michigan State, I think he had 9. Michigan, he didn't have as many as he should have, and a bunch of that came at the very end of the regulation and then the overtimes.
Right. Yeah, he was a decoy on the game tying touchdown by JT. Actually, JT faked that little pump to Samuel to the right and took off up the middle, and it was well blocked. And the defense, you saw the entire defense react to that little pump fake to Samuel just off the right, and it was smooth sailing all the way into the end zone. That was a big indicator of how much defenses pay attention to Samuel. So,
well, they should. It's a numbers game. I mean, he's going to get stopped, on plays, but I mean, if you give him, he's a home run hitter. Yep. And I say we give him, 15 to 20 chances to hit a home run instead of 9.
I agree 100%. Yep. The more pitches you see, the more likely you're going to hit one. So I think we got to almost give the offensive advantage to Clemson, right? Do you agree with that as a general outlook?
Yes, I do.
Because of all the playmakers they have. They got tight end, receiver, solid back, QB.
They do, and Watson's just as cool as JT, but I don't feel, again, I don't feel that we've had ideal circumstances for the Buckeye offense to perform at a high level, but I think the pieces are there. I mean, I love the depth we have at wide receiver, even though none of them have any numbers.
Yeah.
But quarterback, Weber, Ball, I like Ball. Ball's been playing well, and obviously Samuel. Get these guys the ball in good weather, and again, the way we've looked and performed, I can only go by that, and from that, Clemson certainly has an edge. But it's an edge in passing only. They don't have an edge in running the football. Certainly have a better passing game than us.
Okay.
But I think we're going to run it. I think we're going to run it down their throat, and I do not think they will be able to run it down ours. They might be able to pass on us a little bit, but again, I like that matchup too. They haven't faced a defense like Ohio State has this year, and so it's going to test that offense. I see people like, they're going to score 40 points. Look, nobody scored more. What's the most we gave up all year? 24, 27 to Michigan in double overtime.
Right.
We played Oklahoma, who's the number 3 offense in the country, and held them to 24. Mm-hmm. To think you're going to run it up on Ohio State is some wishful thinking, I think.
I agree with that. So we'll get into our predictions here at the end, but let's dive into the defense quickly. I overall give the defensive advantage to Ohio State just because of our 3 levels of strength. I don't think Clemson can match, from a defensive standpoint, the same 3 levels of playmakers and solid players. So I want to jump on what I think are some important matchups and potential weak spots. Honestly, areas of concern on our defense is the tight end for Clemson, Jordan Leggett, versus Damon Webb. We've seen Webb get kind of lost out there, and on especially covering tight ends, going across the middle, they have some huge gainers against him, and he eventually catches up to him, but we've seen him get lost. You see an issue with Damon Webb?
People bang on Webb. I am not as concerned about Webb as others. I'm more concerned about what you brought up initially, is the nickel, when they're running multiple receiver sets, and either Arnett or Ward. That concerns me a little bit. But Webb, we'll see. I don't know enough about their tight end. Is he like an all-world guy?
No, but he's definitely an NFL type tight end. I can pull up his numbers real quick and get back to you on that. But the dude is good. He's one of their top playmakers behind that Mike Williams receiver. He's got 37 catches for 600 yards. 7 touchdowns, but he seems to make key plays. He's got a 17-yard per reception average, which is key. So, yeah, and the dude gets a lot of yak yards after the catch. So, he's a big concern. He gets about half as many targets as Mike Williams, but still, it's substantial when he's running free down the field, in the middle of the field.
Well, and some of that, depending on where it is, might fall into a linebacker's area of responsibility too.
Yeah. Right.
Those guys chasing them down the field, just depending on what the down and situation is.
That was one matchup that really stood out to me. Our corners versus their receivers, I think, are a wash, because I think no matter where that Mike Williams lines up, he's basically getting locked up. He'd be lucky to have 4 catches, in my opinion. Definitely not a. It's going to.
Well, you man up on him, and you got, Hooker plays center field so well. You just shade Hooker a little bit towards his way, and try and take him out of the equation.
Yeah. Areas of strength that are kind of weak spots for Clemson on offense that I think we might be able to exploit. Once again, diving into my stats I was looking at today. Again, I have no job, so I had a lot of time. Weak spot is, I believe, are both tackles in pass protection for Clemson on their O-line. Left tackle, right tackle, 75 and 76. Both of them have decent pass protection percentages. It's like a 95%, which is good. But then Gallman is around that area too, the running back in pass protection, which is not perfect. They have other guys that are closer to 100%. So my point is, those edges might be an area of attack, which that's our strong suit, right? Coming off the edges with Holmes, Tyquan, Hubbard, and Bosa, and even the Rushman package when you want to go with 3 of them or 4 of them. So I think that is an area that we need to look at, and I'm sure that Schiano and Fickle and the staff have looked at, because their pass protection percentages were so much lower than the guard center area.
And I don't know what all those numbers essentially mean. Maybe that is what it is, because they're going against better guys out there or whatnot. But my only concern is we do need to apply pressure. But then what do you do when you're going upfield with Holmes and Tyquan Lewis? Is you got to make sure the other guys are staying home, and I don't know if Raekwon's a shadow on Watson, but Watson will run, man. He'll kill you with them legs.
I agree.
So you get pressure on Watson, it's like, okay, he's like, all right, that's what we were trying to do, but oh shit, he just picked up 15 yards because we got that pressure.
You have to maintain that gap integrity and not let lanes open up, like you see so many times where you got 2 edge rushers that get pushed so far out that they're just past the play, and they're beyond the quarterback, and they're useless because they're not going to catch Deshaun Watson if they're after him. So those tackles, and like you said, they all need to maintain that push, but maybe in more of that pocket formation where he doesn't have free lanes to escape. If he's going to escape, he needs to try and do it outside the edges, and that's where the edge rushers can hopefully hawk him down, or a linebacker. Baker. I like Baker's speed against Deshaun any day of the week. Same with Worley.
Well, it's funny. I just read an article before we started, and it was about the 3 guys that we were using to basically mimic Watson, and we were using what's his name, our rookie or freshman
Haskins.
Quarterback.
Yeah.
Haskins for the throwing, because he's got a cannon, as I understand it. So for Watson's arm, we use Haskins. For his outside running ability, they were using EGW,
right?
Eric Williams, and and then they didn't even mention the guy's name. I think it was like a walk-on quarterback that they were using, like a big kid for the between the tackles running.
Yeah.
Because the guy's so versatile. So, yeah. But they also said they've taken probably 700 Clemson snaps.
Wow.
Basically.
Wow. They've had 11 practices, like official, quote unquote. Then they've also had one-on-one time with their position coaches that's separate from the 11, team practices in December. So, yeah, I could see them having that many snaps.
So they pretty much got to have accounted for everything, I would think. I mean, I don't think it'll be, hey, we didn't prepare well enough. I think they will be prepared, and now it's just, can you perform?
Yeah, exactly. Just to polish up the matchups, special teams, I got to give the advantage to Ohio State because we have a 10-yard difference in average punt distance, and I think that's key. Not sure what the kick return or kickoff average is. I'm going to say our kick return specialists are as good or better than Clemson's. Probably better.
I wouldn't know about that. I'm usually very excited about an Urban Meyer coach special teams, but man, it's been our Achilles heel all year. It almost cost us against Michigan. It did cost us against Penn State.
Right.
We've had a lot of muffs. We haven't been good at all year on returning punts. We just look like shit. Like we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, we changed returners.
Yeah, and
that tells you something.
So I don't know. I mean, I think this game's going to come down to turnovers and special teams. So
yeah.
I hope we got our shit together there, and I'm be fit to be tied if there's 3 seconds left and Durbin has to hit a 45-yarder. Oh, wow.
I agree. I can't blame the dude for the Penn State game. The blocks are not his fault, typically. It's not like they were low kicks into the back of an old lineman's helmet or something. So, but the Michigan game, I hope that he has bounced back from that mentally, because I assume that's the main issue. Physically, it can't be a problem, right? I mean, it's not like he forgot how to kick or his leg is broken. So, I got to hope that the kicker's back. But I think that punt differential, that the game, as we saw against Michigan, field position in that first half killed us, man. We were fucking buried inside the 20 every drive. A couple of them inside the 10. That shit will kill you, especially against a good defense.
I swear teams, punters, when they play Ohio State, I don't know if they're deflating, overinflating, but anytime a team plays us, their kicker looks all world.
Right. Well, yeah, I agree with that, especially in these important playoff games and stuff. I remember that Bama kicker. Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, the Bama kicker was kicking 70-yarders. And
yeah. We saw some great punting out of Michigan's kicker we never saw before. That dude put up like a 68-yarder. So I agree. These guys the kickers get a special high out of being on national television. I don't know. So let's polish this bitch up. I feel, and this is obvious, Phil Steele gives his strength of schedule rankings. Buckeyes had a much tougher schedule this year than Clemson. It's like Buckeyes were like 15, and Clemson was in the 30s somewhere. So this is pretty obvious. With two evenly matched teams, like you and I talked about, this comes down to turnovers and special teams. Field position, and can you get the ball back and turn momentum and make plays when you need to. Do you have anything else that's going to really change this game, because they're so evenly matched on offense and defense?
Well, they are. I mean, I think, like I said, I think if we can establish the Ohio State running game and take control of this, early and often. I think we've played teams, maybe not an offense as dynamic as Clemson, but we faced really tough defenses in Wisconsin and Michigan, and even when Michigan State played us in Penn State. These are good defenses. I don't think Clemson's faced anything like us all year. Nothing even close.
Right.
So I think they're going to get a little dose of reality on that side of it. Offensively, we'll see. I mean, as long as they don't get up early and we get into, pass, I think we're going to be fine. I think we will. Now, if, what typically happens to us in these big games, we go down by 2 touchdowns, like, holy shit, and then come back and grind it out. I don't love us in that kind of game this year. So I think we need to come out hot and hard and heavy and whatever the fuck. Get it done.
The 3 H's. I like that. I agree with you 100%. We don't want to get into a hole like we did against Bama. 21-6 we were down at one point in the first half. And it took a miracle trick play to even get back within a score at the end of the half with the Evan Spencer throw to Mikey Thomas. So a hole is not something you need to get into with a good defense. But I'm going to continue with my theme here as we wind it down for this show, and I'm really happy with the way we broke shit down. But this number, I'm going to continue with my numbers theme. This number is important to me, and that is Urban Meyer is 10-2 in his career as a head coach in bowl games with at least 10 bowl appearances. Best winning percentage ever. So, and I got to also touch on the amount of time. He's had a month to prepare and focus on this game. I think that's key, man. He's one of the best for a reason. He doesn't lose bowl games, and if you give him prep time, you almost have no choice as another team in opposition.
Yeah, no, he does a great job. He's such detail oriented, breaks it down by the numbers and just analyzes everything. Like I said, it won't be for lack of preparation. It'll be the only way Ohio State doesn't win this game if Deshaun Watson, and he's capable of it, frankly, comes out and has the game of his career, or some of the games like I've seen him have that's just unstoppable. Will be the only thing. But Ohio State, offensively, defensively, is going to be prepared. The one little thing that scares me defensively is with Fickle leaving, and his I know he loves Ohio State, bleeds scarlet and gray, but is his mind otherwhere? I mean, he's got kids he's got to start recruiting and shit too, right?
I agree. That's always a concern. Alabama's going through the same problems with Laney leaving there soon. So, from what I've heard about Lane, he's a very Lane kind of guy. So, I don't think he's too concerned about Alabama's future. But,
yeah, Lane's worried about Lane and going out and boozing and cheating on his old lady and shit. That's what Lane's up to.
But Fickle's a different kind of guy. I think he's got some good morals, and his dedication to the university has been unparalleled. So,
agreed.
So I just wanted to end on that number before we get our predictions in. Buckeyes favored by 3 still. This is not wavered at all. It's been pretty solid since the rankings were announced. Over-unders 59. I think both teams will score in the 30s. You want to give me your take before I drop a little nugget on you guys?
Yep. I got Buckeyes 42. Clemson will match our worst defensive output and put up 27. 42-27 Buckeyes.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, I'm pretty close to that too, honestly. But I got to drop this nugget, and it's something that you may have heard before, but not very often. I just caught it this week. But this is a quote from Herb, and he says, "I know Clemson very well. I study Clemson because I like what they do offensively, and I know their players from recruiting. I know their staff. This is important because it tells me that he knows what he's going up against, especially since 2013. I think it's that, what is it, the art of war? Know thy enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he knows thy enemy very well, and this is going to be ugly. So, like I talked about, he doesn't lose with this kind of prep time. I'm going to take the Buckeyes to cover, but it's going to be tight. I'm going tight, like I'm talking 37-30. Yeah, 37-30. Obviously, take the over. I think both teams get into the 30s, like I said before. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you look up. Clemson's given up some big numbers to Pitt, to Louisville.
Right.
They've given up some points this year. I think in the 42 that I think Buckeyes are going to score, I think we're going to get a defensive touchdown out of this game too. Let's stay on that train. Keep that defense rolling. I think it'll end late with Clemson trying to drive down and come back and they'll get picked off late too. So I see Watson. I'm hoping with at least 2, maybe 3 picks.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
I'll be over at Yandura's in Tiffin, Ohio, for anybody that wants to stop by and join us for some cold beers.
What's his address?
69 Pinecrest.
Nice. Yeah, swing by, Buckeye fans. It's a Buckeye fan party, and you'll enjoy it. Trust me. May want to bring a firearm or some type of protection, but yeah, I feel pretty confident. I don't think this Clemson team is as good as last year's, and I realize this is their second year in a row back to the playoffs, but I'm not sure they get the job done. It's too bad, but I'll let you know when I feel bad. So
that being said, though, I am scared as shit, man.
Yeah,
I'm just nervous. Big game, Buckeyes.
They're dangerous. They're dangerous. This is got to win and get in. I hope Buckeye Nation shows up out there. I know it's not going to be as strong as it was last year. I know it was a pretty strong contingent out there for last year's Fiesta Bowl, and I think from what I've read, a lot of Buckeye fans are hedging their bets and thinking the
waiting on the Bama game?
Yeah, the Bama game is the game to spend it on, when they should probably actually show up this week. Otherwise, there is no next week. So
I think we'll do all right in Glendale, though. Glendale, I mean, that's home field for us out there.
I think so too.
A lot of Arizona Buckeyes.
Yeah. So
Tate Martell and them just down the road.
Yeah. Good point. So yeah,
Las Vegas.
Yeah. So let's focus on this week, Buckeye fans, not next week, and let's get it done. Let's get hyped. This is going to be a huge one. It's prime time. We're all going to be fucking eyes glued on this bitch. I'm not even going to be DVRing it, man. I'm watching this thing live with commercials, everything.
Well, side note on that, I was invited up in Michigan to buddy throws this big fancy New Year's Eve party. And I'm like, no fucking way. I said, I'm not going to sit there and all these yentas and stuff. Oh, hey, Sean, how you doing? Nice to see you. I don't got time for that shit. I'm going to be watching the football game, and I don't want to be on. I don't want to talk to people except about what play just happened. That's going to be my conversation that night.
Exactly. If you want to have a bad night, have me at your party.
That's right. Happy New Year. Get the fuck out of my way.
Michigan sucks. All right, man. It's been a good one. Jeff couldn't make it tonight. Apparently, Orlando was overrun with snow or something. I don't know. So, anyway, we'll hit you next week, hopefully with good news, and we'll talk about the next game. Fingers crossed.
All See you next year, Buckeyes.
Good to have you, Henry, up in Detroit, in Tiffin via Detroit. Excellent show. We broke it down for you as best we could. I think, I don't know who could have a better show than this as far as covering the Buckeyes. Seriously.
Nobody.
All right, man. Tell everybody up in Tiffin I said hello, and subscribe to the podcast as always. Don't forget to visit our affiliates, hit the affiliates page, and also have links in our show notes for the the affiliates, and hit them up. They got good products.
Buy your tickets to the bowl games.
That's right. Get your Buckeye gear, all that shit. All right, Henry. Have a good one.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Later.
Happy New Year. Moderation.
All right.
It's fun time.